I wanted this to be a little bit of a talk to give you some background on AI and also have you use AI in a way that was immediately relevant for you. So that's my goal for this workshop. Some of you know me and have known me for a long time, but I spent 25 years in large enterprises doing process improvement stuff like lean agile ways of working, helping people work better together. And I felt like that was time for me to move on from that career and do something else. So I took a data science program at MIT. I have my own company called Bright Logic where we do AI automations. Throughout my journey, the past almost 10 years now, I've been speaking on these process improvement topics and lean agile topics. And now, of course, I talk about AI stuff too. I'm really just there to help people improve their process. Any feelings you want to type in the chat? How about how you're feeling about AI? Hopeful. Is there fear? I have some people expressing fear. They thought there was going to be like Terminator scenario. Okay. All right. I went to a meetup the other day and this guy, he's like, look, I'm afraid of AI. He was in his 80s and he's like, look, I'm just 80 years old, but I see all those Terminator movies and I just remember those. And so afraid of AI. There are lots and lots of misperception, like AI can take over and it's going to be this Terminator scenario. But, AI, especially generative AI, just can't do those things right now. So as I talk through it, I think you'll understand a little bit better about the lack of thinking that it does. But regardless, I'm not even here to sell you on AI. Just like a process improvement or agility, it's only here to solve a business problem. And if you don't have one, I can't sell it to you. So, like many things, we can't just look at the solution. And there have been times I've met with people and their solution wasn't actually, they didn't need AI for their solution. Their process was the problem. And so I'm still going to help people with their process improvement if they want to and not sell them AI. At the same time, we have to understand that a lot of businesses are losing a ton of money from these inefficiencies. It's nothing new. They have been doing this for many, many years. We all know that processes are inefficient, right? In season, you're part of that, right? You understand. We lose money due to handoffs. People are doing repetitive tasks. It's not their zone of genius. And employees are spending a lot of time searching for information to do their jobs. And in fact, sometimes they never even find it. So I think this is some of the things where generative AI can really, really help. And so it's been my mission for many years to fix broken processes so people can do better work and be happier at work. It was like my tagline for years to alleviate misery in the workplace. But now we have even more and more opportunities to do that. So instead of thinking about AI specifically, but what if you could get 5 to 10 hours back a week to just focus on more of what matters to you? Is it to get those hours back to grow your business or learn new things in your role or something else, right? Maybe spend time with your family. I know I was spending a lot of time working and upskilling myself. So, like, man, if I could only just have a Sunday off, that would be great. So, your goals might differ, but these are the possibilities that AI could bring to you, right? Whether you feel overwhelmed, frustrating processes, delays trying to follow up with people because you're overwhelmed. A lot of businesses have lack of leads and sales, or they have lots of time eating admin work. There are already studies showing that professionals using AI are much more effective and efficient in their work, and they improve their output by a lot. So we can't ignore that when they say that, yeah, I won't take your job, but someone who uses AI may take your job. We have to think about those things as we really focus on where we're going to take ourselves, our jobs will change. We just don't know how they're going to change. Let me show you a little bit of the picture. I'm not going to go in depth through every single slide, but for years people were dreaming of AI being the thing that's going to happen. Artificial machines that can think. Started in the 1950s. They were actually trying to get funding, which is why they called it artificial intelligence to make a cool name. But for many years, and you see these like snowflakes here, it was called the AI winter, where people had hopes for things to happen, but they couldn't make actual progress with AI. It wasn't until really like the 2010s when it really started coming into our daily lives. All of a sudden, we have smartphones. So there is nothing new about AI. Even a thermostat is something like a simple AI, right? It senses a temperature and then it adjusts accordingly. So a lot of people don't know they've already been using AI for many years. Only now has come to the point where we have enough processing power. We have enough information to suck all this data together. And so this point came where all of a sudden we have enough information and we've got enough processing power. And then generative AI came to the scene where instead of just being able to look at predictions and understand patterns, all of a sudden we're generating new information. So just a simple example. For years, say starting in the 2010s, people were examining, well, how can I tell the difference between a cat and a dog? Well, something that a toddler could do, but for machines, it was hard. So they had to train on thousands and thousands of images to distinguish, say, the difference between cat and dog. So it could learn the difference. But it wasn't until recently that we could then type in a text prompt to have a new image of a cat or dog generated. So while we may have had the capability to understand what is the difference between a cat and dog years ago, it wasn't until now that we could generate a new image that resembles a cat or dog. These are some ways that we are using AI in your daily life. So even if you say, I rarely use AI intentionally, you are actually using it. If you ever use your GPS, if you got an Alexa, or you use your credit card and you get the fraud alerts on them and you're using spam filters, all ways that we're already using AI. So like I said, generative AI, that is what is new. When people say AI these days, they typically mean generative AI, not like the machine learning that we had. So we can create even music. We can create new songs just by typing in prompts. We can create images. And of course, all these images I have here are AI generated using Midjourney. And one of the major use cases that's been most useful is create any kind of text that we want. Challenges we have with generative AI is that it requires large amounts of data to train models. And then of course, if it doesn't have enough data and you ask it a question, it could generate some inaccurate content. So you should always check it. And it's very biased. I have a personal story because I ask it frequently to generate images of business people, and it will frequently generate a young white guy in a tie and a suit. So I always reprompt it. That's one of the things you can do is that when you reprompt it and you feed this stuff back in it, then it will get better. So it's inherently biased. And we can work, though, to change those biases by the prompts that we put in it and the content that we want to get out of it. If you really want a bunch of diverse business owners, then keep prompting it until you get what you want. Because it's a small group and I can't launch this with the glitch that I have. Are you using generative AI frequently? So we got some, but nobody's brand new. Is anyone's not tried it at all? Looks like people have. All right. So again, I get this question a lot. AI is going to enhance, not replace people. I'm going to say there are a lot of companies out there that saying they're replacing people, but I think it's very short-sighted. They're going to find out sooner or later that they can't replace people, that it's going to enhance our decision making, but someone still needs to control the AI. Who is looking at the content of the AI? Who's altering the prompts? Who's making sure that it's correct? So we can't eliminate the human from the equation, but we will have to change our work. So one of the things that I've been exploring is this idea of AI sales development rep. It can make outbound phone calls. It can send text messages. It can have chats in DMs with people just like a human would do. So instead of looking at as replacing the salespeople, actually salespeople only spend about 30% of their day selling actively to people. It is a lot of drudgery work, copying and pasting from CRM to this document to, following up to, gotta type this email, following up. So AI can help people, even sales rep, focus on the human aspect even more. But of course, if you were a sales rep, you're going to have to alter what you do and learn how to use those tools. So that's just one way that we could say it's not going to replace people, but you won't have that same job left. You're going to have to iterate on your job as well. Companies want to hire people who know AI. So if you do know AI, you're more likely to be hired than if you don't know AI. Just a quick run through as I was taking my data science program and trying to query and understand how do I become successful writing Python and all these new concept, business statistics and linear algebra, which is not the algebra that I thought it was. So the cost of acquiring these skills is now almost zero when you can pay $20 a month for ChatGPT or Claude and have these skills. So like the way I look at it is having, data next to you or connecting to the hive mind. So I'm going to have this call to action. Build your future with an AI first mindset. That means experimenting. Don't be afraid to experiment. We're going to try that in a moment. practice, and then learn how others do it. There are many people sharing on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on how they are using AI. So don't be afraid to test those things out. And one of the things that I've realized is when you combine your domain knowledge with AI, you have a superpower. And so recruiting with AI, right? Agile with AI, whatever it is, those are going to be your superpower. AI on its own is not really worth anything, only if it solves a business problem. So for me, I dialed in on process improvement using AI because that was the domain knowledge I have. A lot of you probably know all these things already, but in preparation for this talk, I had to send out a bunch of emails to people who had said that they wanted to hear from me when I started this community. So Susie did the automation, and I ran up to send individually personalized emails based on the responses that people had put into that Google form. And it went automatically to my email drafts folder. And then I opened them up and I read them and I edited them and then I sent them. But so extreme, that's just one example of how AI could help. Um, of course, we already know about 24/7 support chatbots, but think of if if people are in a process and now we can automate that, it can also reduce errors and manual efforts. So those are some benefits that we have. I'm gonna pause. Any questions or inputs? No? Right.
So Heidi, you were able to, and I know you're probably going to incorporate this in your the sales thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I guess just at a very high level, how did you get the personalization to, or AI to do the personalization based on the response? I mean, just had them read the Google Docs and say, create a personal email or whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, no problem. So people had filled out a Google form, and I'll have Susie chime in a second because she's the one who built the automation. But we basically had that Google sheet with the challenge, concerns that you had about AI. And then Susie, why don't you share the bit about the automation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's exactly that. You have the form responses were saved to a Google Sheet, and then using make.com, which is automation software, you can feed those responses into a ChatGPT, an OpenAI module, and prompt it and just explain that you're sending out a personalized email, give it a good prompt, and then it can take the responses one by one, iterate over them, and create a personalized email from those responses.
Interesting. Okay.
Everyone was a little bit different. So, it was interesting when I was going through them because it definitely took the content that the people had said. And so every email was like different. It wasn't even like the old style robotic form where you just replace the name and like based on your role as a recruiter, I see you care about this. It was totally, each one was a little bit different. Of course, they were pretty similar because we had told it what to, the things to include, but it was really cool actually. So yeah.
It's good to know because I'm used to the old style, what you're talking about. So that's good.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Anyone want to share on how you're using AI currently, just briefly?
I used ChatGPT to come up with a schedule for Instagram Reels for my side business all the way out through the end of next year. Like it would have taken me weeks, if not months, to do that. And it was just boom.
Wow, that's cool. Michael? Yeah.
One of the things I'm learning just from reading about this idea is be very specific in your prompts, and I'm using it, and someone showed me this for Claude, but putting in, how did we do it? I have the prompt and I can send it to you, but pretend like you're a Gartner, which does business examination expert, and review, X company, and bring back. I'm paraphrasing this because I don't have it in front of me, but last 3 year, case sheets, our earnings, the letter from the CEO, challenges they face, and having that done for a company. And I just got a new one from another person here. I haven't even tried it yet, but just really to identify customers who may need our services, what their challenges are, and how to tailor an approach to solve those problems for them. That's a very, very high level. It's much more complex than that, but that's the general thing there.
I like it. And actually, I was reading the other day also that someone had basically said, pretend you're an advisor from one of the top 4 consulting firms.
Yep.
Say why the UK should adopt renewable energy and spit out a report for me, blah, blah. I mean, there's a lot of things that if you only knew, act like a what, or you are this, then you could probably figure out a lot of things. And so, yeah, that's really, that's really cool. So it seems like many of you already are aware of what an LLM is. A lot of people I know had never heard of the term before. Basically, yes, this is the one, the chat GPTs and the Claudes and the Perplexities, of course, is generating new text. And I have the digital parrot here because I tell people it just as a reminder, it may generate incredible things that sound amazing, but it doesn't really know what it's saying. And sometimes I'm astounded by the stuff that it comes up with. It seems so conscious, right? But it's really not. So also know that it can't really take over or do anything. It's literally just generating based on combinations of data that it has seen before. In case you aren't aware, it hasn't been good at math. It is getting better at math now. And if you have a very, very long chat, there are memory limitations and it will actually use up more of your context window. I had one guy just saying, I have had a chat open for a whole month. It's actually going to use up more of your context window. But what happens is going to forget what happened earlier in the chat. There are ways that you can get around them, like using custom GPTs and stuff. There are a lot of people I know that just struggle with how am I supposed to talk to this thing and how am I going to get going? I spoke with a real estate agent the other day and she said, I had a client call me up and ask, what size HVAC unit should go in this house. And she's like, well, how the heck do I know? I didn't know. So I just typed in Chat GPT and it told me. And then I told the client, I was like, oh my gosh, like only an HVAC person would know that. And so luckily, if they called one, they would probably say, that's the case. But you can't rely on it. So if you can't verify that response, then never use it. Another funny one was I had a guy say, well, Heidi, I think you're wrong because I actually asked it to come up with a counterweight that goes on a crane, one of those construction cranes, and it actually came up with a good response. Be doing that if you were, I mean, you would be an engineer already, so you wouldn't just trust the answer. Hopefully you'd verify if you were actually putting that stuff on the crane and hoping that it would work. So some scary things, but people tend to trust it blindly. And so please be aware of the AI gremlins. So also, please don't share customer information or sensitive information with public large language models. That's the benefit of some of the automations and some of the platforms that I have and Susie have access to is that you're not uploading anything. I didn't upload anything into ChatGPT. We're using the API version of it. So the automations are actually more secure and private because we're not exposing customer data to that or your data when we were building the draft email. So be aware of how you're using it and don't put anything there if you didn't want it to be public. And I talked to you about some of its, bias and ethics. One of the things is that if you ask it to write a persuasive email, it tends to be much better than a human at it. And so use the information ethically because you could actually, right, be much more persuasive than a human. Cool. Are you ready? Cool. All right, let's get going. So we're going to start with Claude, and I'd like you to get ready. So open up Claude.ai. And we're going to start with one small task. Maybe you've already tried Claude, but I hope this will bring something, even if you have not tried it, bring you something different. So you're going to talk to it and imagine this data from Star Trek. If you're a fan of the Next Generation like me, you can talk to it like a person, but he just comes up with things. And it's amazing. So assume it can help with anything. And then we're going to give it feedback when it doesn't give you what you want. Okay. So Claude is your magical assistant. Think of him like Data, and he can take on the persona of anyone, a health coach, an analyst. So, right, there's a person that I heard that lost 50 pounds because they used ChatGPT as a health coach and they got health advice and then they followed it every day. So if you're new to Claude and you haven't tried using AI before, just go to Claude.ai. You can log in with your simple Google account and just, type in hi. If you've done this before, you can skip the hi part. So today we're going to actually think of a problem that you'd like to solve. So if you're a business, do you want more leads? Do you need more sales? Are you looking for something for your side gig? Is it a t-shirt business?
It is, yep.
Okay, that's cool. So yeah, so what are you, maybe you need ideas for new designs or whatever it is. It can help with problem solving and research and analysis, of course. So let's just get going. My prompt model is very simple because I think if people are new, that coming up with very complex prompts is going to be overwhelming and they won't remember. But the main one is feedback. Your role, you are a. Are you an expert in creating viral content? Are you a sales expert that helps companies get more sales? Then what's your objective? I'm looking to find a way to get more sales for my business. Find me a way to get more sales for my business without spending any extra money. Something like that. Like you're going to give it some outcomes and it's going to give you some answer. And then when you press enter, you're going to then see the reply and then you're going to give it feedback. So that's my role prompt. So think of this for just a moment. You are a. What problem are you trying to solve? T-shirt designs, more sales, social media strategy. And then I'm going to move to the next one because that's going to give you some actual, like, you are a business advisor in the real estate industry. I need help generating leads for my business because I don't love sales. Help me find ways to generate leads without spending money. And then just press enter and read the output. So we're going to pause for just a couple of minutes here and let you do that. And then just maybe raise your hand or something when you're done. Michael, you can probably move to the feedback stage. How was it?
Well, I've used Claude before.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this, and
Yep.
It's good answers. It's generic because I gave it a generic prompt. So
Yes. What this is where you can get that's totally what I was expecting, right? So you got something generic. What would you ask for now? So you give it, oh, it's so generic. Maybe can you give it more information to make it more specific?
Yeah, and I was expecting this too. I would think that I would go back and talk about my specific, business. Okay, because I've been, count sales of recruiting and placement services. Excuse me. Or who to target, and that's one of the things I'm looking for. I mean, in sales, it's all about finding the customers who are most willing to buy at any particular time, and that certainly changes.
Yeah.
That's what I would probably type in next and
Great.
see what what are some are ways to identify customers who are in purchasing mode now based on current economic conditions or something along those lines. I'm just, I'd have to think about it, but that something along those lines, Heidi.
Cool. Susan?
I put in that I need some help generating Instagram reels because I'm working with a coach who gave me a goal of generating an Instagram reel every single day. And I work full time. So I'm like, ah. So I got a very long answer from Claude, and I'm giving Claude the feedback that I need a shorter answer focused on generating reels as quickly as possible. And we'll see what he comes back with.
Oh, great. So what I've learned from this, and I've worked with a lot of people from, basically 14 to in their 80s with prompts, is that a lot of people miss this feedback. So keep giving it feedback. And I had, so no matter how much you fine tune your prompt, you're probably going to miss something all the time. So don't forget the feedback aspect. If it's not giving you what you want, remember, don't get embarrassed about asking it 15 times. It will never get tired of giving you what it thinks you want. And then if it's not, like I find that oftentimes when I type something quickly and it gives me something that I don't want, it's literally because I wasn't specific enough. So the more specific you are, it is great. You might get some better responses up front, like Michael is discovering of, the more general. So I did optimize for like just getting people started if they were afraid to get started, because then you're going to begin to get in this conversation and realize that you can actually have an hours long conversation with it if you wanted to, depending on what the topic was. Cool. Thank you. All right. So the second one is, have you used and heard of Perplexity?
No.
Cool. Oh, cool. All right. So you can think of Perplexity as a research assistant and librarian. So whereas Claude doesn't have real-time internet access, Perplexity does. And its whole use case, its whole reason for being is that it wants to replace Google search. And so that is his mission, to replace Google search. And you'll see how amazing it is. I haven't been enthused with the Google search. So it tried to solve the problem of ChatGPT coming up with just random answers, and it provides real-time search and synthesis of information with citations at the end. So it does say I'm looking for information that has lots of numbers in it. When I was researching the jobs report, it did actually hallucinate something. So check for gremlins. But the good thing is that when it gives you this information, you can easily click in and see for the gremlins. So go to perplexity.ai and we're going to do some research. All right, we're ready. All right. Okay, so in preparation for this talk, I actually typed in how much money do small businesses lose to inefficiencies each year? So you can see that it's quoting some sources here, and then it's actually telling me where it comes from. So I can click on these, 4 or 5, and I can click on these and you can see here. So it's up to you then to click in deeper and say, well, actually, okay, the small business statistics, that's actually useful, but maybe, I don't know, I've never heard of SMB Compass. Maybe I click in there and say, well, I don't want to actually use that source. But you can then go and see, are you going to use that source? But you can leverage this not only for a replacement for Google search, but also to do some, say, market research. And so there's a way. So maybe, yeah, if you're waiting to do a Google search, maybe you can do a quick Google search for for your business.
Hey, Heidi, question.
Yeah.
So some of these other more advanced prompts that I've seen and used, they would work on Perplexity also, correct?
Yes, they would work on Perplexity also. Yep.
And maybe a dumb question, but I'll ask it.
Mhm.
So all these generative AIs read prompts the same way. Is that true, or is that a fair statement?
Well, I think the concept is similar, but each one may digest it slightly differently based on their programming. And so what I often do is if I really care about a good response to something, I will try it in various LLMs. Like
Okay.
I'll try it in Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, and it will give me different responses. I use Perplexity like a Google search oftentimes. And so then I just literally type in what I would have typed in, what I was hoping for the answer to be. At some time I typed in, hey, I'm looking to go on a family vacation between this and this. Like, what are some good locations in the United States? And I put these, qualifications in there where, it's walkable, maybe some good architecture, we could take hikes. And so I actually did a pretty good job coming up with some of those answers too. So you can use it for many different things. Here's an example of a market report. Say you are a real estate agent and you want to put out a newsletter and you're like, okay, what do I put here? So I need a market report. So let me just put this in my newsletter. Well, Perplexity can help you generate the market report. Remember, it has access to real-time data. It can be hyper focused. So this is Oviedo, Florida is near where I live. Help me create a market report for my newsletter with the latest local real estate data. So you can just type in like a Google search, but it's a little bit, I'll say, upgraded. And you can also use the roof prompt, role, objective, outcome, and then give it feedback also. I haven't shown it here in this screenshot, but you'll see in your thing where it has follow-up questions down below. So it's assuming that you may want to continue the conversation, and then you can just open up those choices that it gives you. So this is also a really great thing to use. So I never use Google search anymore. Pretty much, I just use Perplexity for everything, unless I'm looking for something specific like an image. So yeah, questions? No?
I'm sorry to be asking all this.
No, please.
There's a lot of talk about how Google is biased, but of course they always push sponsored content because people pay for that. Perplexity probably doesn't do that, right?
I don't think they have sponsored content. I will, it's very interesting what people are talking about now with the change of how SEO is going to basically change how we work. So companies that optimize on SEO, what does SEO look like in the world where it's already done for you? And maybe it looks like I can get to the #1 spot here if I have some good SEO. So there's lots of questions about what SEO will look like. And I know there's lots of stuff you've probably already read. It's too much to go into, but basically they want you to create valuable content, not just AI generated content, stuff that people will want with specifics. And so I guess it's probably good we're talking about this because part of the things that they wanted are actual numbers, not just generic statements. Like part of AI generated content is too generic. But so with Perplexities, actually you can get some very specific content with citations that then you could put in here that would probably help your SEO if you did care about that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. And there are lots of programs that help you write blog posts that are all SEO optimized and so on. But I find them really uninspiring. So, but they're supposed to be SEO optimized. So, all right. So yeah, you can use the roof prompt if you want to. I am whatever. I want to create a market report and then give me a report detailed for my ideal customer profile. And then you can give it feedback or read the next one so far. Do we feel Perplexity enabled? Yeah. Anyone want to share what they typed into Perplexity?
Nothing yet. But
I asked, so I'm comparing Google search to Perplexity, and I asked what AI tools can make Instagram Reels out of videos. It gave me another long answer. So what I'm having to do with all of these tools is say, please give me an ADHD friendly answer and then
Nice.
shorten it. But yeah, this is amazing. I've never heard of this tool and I'm loving it. Way better than Google search.
Oh, so glad to hear. Yeah. Awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, so I guess we figured out how did it do. I don't with this Google, sorry, the Google Slides version and my tech challenges, I can't even see what slides coming. So I created this. I'm like, oh, let's just see what comes next. Yeah. So this was the session on AI for newbies. I wanted to get people time to practice with the tools and understand a couple of new tools. Sounded like folks may not have been aware of Perplexity. Some of us have tried Claude before. But yeah, and did you learn anything? And I guess the second question I have is for you, if you learned anything, love to have that feedback. And then if we did another session, what would you like to see from us in the next session?
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead, Susan.
I learned the importance of just feeding in that feedback. I loved getting some hands-on help with the tools and having that roof format just in the front of my mind as I'm using them. I learned about Perplexity, which I never knew about. And I would love to see like image or video creation tools in the next session.
Cool.
Michael, I'll throw it over to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and actually I was going to say the same, similar to what Susan was saying, is that LinkedIn to me is still very much, it's turned into a bit of a marketing tool for a lot of people. And I'm seeing a lot of push for videos. I know, what is it? SendSpark seems to be the one that's really popping up on Loom. How to incorporate some of these, use that to incorporate maybe the message I get from Perplexity and still personalize it enough to hey, Heidi, hey, Susan, excuse me, or something along those lines. I don't know if that's even possible, but send a targeted message with a video with me maybe speaking it and use that, for marketing or something to separate and really enhance our value proposition.
Oh, cool. Okay, so question. So, for example, I open up my email and I have an email from you, Michael, and it says, I start playing the video and it says, "Hi, Heidi, I'm just here to share the latest market trends on blah, blah, blah." And then every single person that opened it up, they would get sort of like a personalized to them. Is that what you're trying to do? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's definitely possible today. Cool. Yeah, we have some things that we could talk about then for sure. All right. And anyone else? Did you learn something or what would you like to see? You can feel free to type it in the chat if you don't want to unmute and speak, or yeah, just give us feedback because we want to build our community. to share what folks want. So we have this Facebook group, and of course, I think I'll do it on Zoom and Facebook. So you don't necessarily have to have the to be on the Facebook group, but we'll be figuring that stuff along the way as we get feedback from folks. Anything that you learned or would like to see? Anything else?
I got to join your Facebook group.
Yeah, so we have a good, I pulled a screenshot this morning with 21 members, but the other communities and groups that I saw out there were trying to monetize heavily, or they were very focused on automation scenario. And it wasn't a lot for people who were just getting started, like in a very friendly way. That was this interactive group where we just want to learn, and we want to learn from you. We want to share our knowledge along the way. Because when we do that, we also learn as we're giving back. So that's our goal. Cool. Susie, could you share the Facebook link?
I can share it in the chat. Yes, I'll get it
Yes,
now.
please. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for joining. This was the pilot of this talk. If there's anything that you would like me to alter or edit, then let me know. It would have been better to cover this or that. Open to feedback, so you can do that anytime. Just hit me up. And yeah, I'd love if you join our Facebook group. We're just getting started, and harkening back to the other group that I had that we ran for 5 years, that we had 90 to 100 people joining each session. And we started out with monthly events, and then we had a podcast. We had like little lead and coffee events where we just jam on stuff. And we had a whole bunch of stuff going on. So we aim to build this out to be a really vibrant community, helping people understand AI and how it can fit into their work and personal lives. Great.
Heidi, one last completely selfish personal question.
Yeah.
I love the pictures you put on your LinkedIn posts, and I want to, they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I want to start doing something along those lines. So just
Yes.
if you can next time, not today, but maybe talk a little bit how you go about doing that.
Oh yeah, amazing. So I use an image creation tool called Midjourney, and I'd love to do that because I've heard lots of feedback on that point that people are kind of lost, and the Chat GPT ones are just not as good. So yeah, I can certainly share that. Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we'll be here for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. For anyone else, if people want to leave, you can leave, but we'll hang out if you have more questions, and we'll be here until the top of the hour if anyone wants a personal attention for their AI questions.
This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Heidi. That was really good.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you. So I'm gonna stop recording.
Thank you, Heidi.
Oh, I'm so glad that you got value from it. Thank you.
Got good insight. I will be in touch with you, and also joining your Facebook.
Sounds great. I'm so glad that you were able to join. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yes.
Last minute too.
Okay. Bye bye.